Okay, women, your arms are soft, flabby, you've got chicken wing arms, and you can't stand it. It drives you nuts. You want to wear a sleeveless shirt, but you can't? This episode is dedicated to you, and I'm making it specifically because through the years, and even more so recently, I've had several women come up to me and ask me, what's going on? What can they do about this situation? Because it drives them nuts. For a lot of people, have become very self conscious about this. So we're going to break this down. This is going to be a very actionable, change your life before and after sort of episode. So please listen up. If you are doing bicep curls, tricep kickbacks, and you still feel like your arms are flabby or weak, you are not alone. And it's not the exercises that are the problem, it's the way you're doing them. If you have 3 pound dumbbells, 4 pound dumbbells, if you're doing 1 or 2 sets of 10 repetitions of these exercises once a week and you're not seeing change, you're not alone. If you're doing arm exercises in some sort of fitness class setting, it is a waste of time. It's not moving the needle. If it was, you would have really sculpted arms and sculpted shoulders, but you probably don't. In today's episode, I'm going to give you the actual strategy where you can see and feel a difference in toning your arms, in arm strength, in a little bit of shoulder and arm physique. Who doesn't want that, right? My name is Aaron Shaw. I am a health span physio coach. I'm an occupational therapist, strength and conditioning specialist by training. I've been doing this for almost 30 years now. I love science and I hate that people are trying to apply themselves to better their health and they're not seeing the results that they want. 99.9% of the time, it is because people are not applying the science on how things actually work. And specifically, what I see most often is that people with good intentions who have specific goals, they want to feel a certain way, they want to look a certain way, are doing the wrong things. They're being led down this path, frankly, of things that are too good to be true. Hop around, jump around to a dance class or something like that. And why why am I feeling weaker today than I did, a year or so ago, 2 years ago? Maybe it's some sort of magic protein shake or a supplement or some sort of thing. And people still are not feeling the way that they want. And there is a reason for that. And the reason is that none of that stuff follows the science. So this episode, we're going to dive in, and specifically, this is for you if you are a woman in perhaps midlife and you want toned arms, you want to have strength without feeling bulky, and you really want to feel confident in a sleeveless shirt. I mean, who doesn't, right? And yes, these goals are 100% achievable with the right strategy. So let's break this down. There are 2 exercises I'm going to talk about today out of an infinite number, but we're just going to go into 2. And these 2 main ones, if you do them well and you do them consistently, I promise you it will move the needle. It will change the way you look and the way you feel for your arms specifically. We're talking bicep curl and an overhead tricep extension. So I'll describe this. If you are just listening to this on the audio version of this podcast, you'll have to kind of use your imagination a little bit, but you're probably familiar with these exercises. If not, the World Wide Web will give you plenty of demonstrations on that. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. I'd be super grateful if you did such a thing. And I'll be able to kind of see what I'm talking about maybe a little bit better. First and foremost, the bicep curl. This is the muscle at the front of your arm. And typically, if you tell anybody to make a muscle, the first thing they want to do is bend their elbows and show their bicep muscle. The best way to stimulate strength, toneness, if you will, of the bicep would be to get dumbbells, to sit on a bench, so one of those like incline gym benches, and do just that. I want you to incline the bench to about a 45-degree angle. So you're sitting your butt down, you've got a dumbbell in each hand, and you are reclining like you're in a recliner. Yeah, you're just kind of kicking back, except you're not kicking back because you got dumbbells in your hand. So I want you to picture that. That is the bicep starting position of doing a bicep curl. So you're reclined back, your arms are down by your side, and it's a bicep curl, right? It's simple. This is 101. You bend your arm up and you let it down. Simple as that. Now, why would you do this in this sort of reclined position or inclined position? Well, what this does is it actually puts a little bit of stretch on your bicep versus just simply standing up and doing it. And that little extra stretch will give you more return on your investment. It'll be a little bit harder. And if you're not accustomed to doing this, you may actually notice, even if you start lifting about the same weight that you would if you're normally doing this, you may actually feel a little bit more soreness in your muscle, in your bicep, just by changing the position of doing it. So You're sitting down, you're on an incline bench, doing a bicep curl. Crank up your elbow, you bend your elbow, you take a pause, slow on the way down. So if you're going to count the sort of the cadence of doing this or the tempo of doing this, 1001, 1002, that'll get you the full bending position. On the way down, go a little bit slower. And this is a way to really extend the amount of time, the number of seconds under tension. So we're trying to challenge the tissue to change its physiology so it is more tone. And in order to do that, there needs to be resistance and tension. And the more time it's under tension, the better. So you're pulling on the muscle, pulling on the muscle fibers, muscle cells, on the ligaments, on the tendons. And all that is a virtuous cycle to help you build tone. I'm going to go into the details, more details on like how to pick weights here in a minute. But that's the bicep curl. The second exercise is the tricep. So we're talking about tricep extension here. And this is probably one where at least people, casual friends, close friends, and people who understand what I do for a living, many women come up to me and they lift up their arm and they kind of shake that underside of their arm. They kind of wiggle their tricep around and be like, what the hell's happening here? Why is it so flabby behind my arm? It's unnerving. And, maybe when you're in your 20s and you don't even think twice about it and you're just sort of tone and beautiful and all of our hormones are perfect and don't have any real wear and tear and all that's perfectly fine. We're all tone. But once you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, etc., things lose tone. So that's the tricep. That's the back of the arm. And the exercise we're going to talk about for this one is going to be an overhead tricep extension with dumbbells. Okay, so we got a dumbbell in each hand, just like the bicep curl. Now, to describe this position, you're going to be sitting down in a bench, but this time instead of being kind of a incline bench or a half recline bench, you're going to be sitting straight up, straight back chair, just like elementary school. Just straight back chair, supported, and you're going to have a dumbbell in your hand, and you're going to reach that dumbbell up to the ceiling. So your arm is straight up overhead as you're sitting down, and what you're going to do is you're going to bring that dumbbell down, kind of to the behind your head to the back of your neck. So your elbow is pointing straight up in the sky. The dumbbell is kind of at the back of your neck, and you're going to reach it up to the ceiling and slowly let it come back down behind your head. Be careful with this. Don't conk yourself in the head with the dumbbell. The key is that your arm is going to stay. So your finishing position is you're trying to reach that dumbbell straight up to the ceiling. And even when you're bringing it down, your elbow is going to stay pointed to the ceiling. So your elbow is pointed to the ceiling, then your hand goes to the ceiling. In the same vein that we talked about with the positioning of the bicep curl, that need to get tension across that muscle and tendon unit, this is the same thing for the tricep. So if you've done tricep kickbacks, that's okay. Is it as good as the way I just described this exercise? No, it's not. Why? Because when you do a tricep kickback, so that's when you're kind of bent over bench and your elbow goes from about 90 degrees and you push it straight, you're getting a small arc of motion. So that muscle and tendon only kind of goes through half, maybe 3/4 of the range of motion. So you're not even stimulating the entire muscle to do what it's capable of doing. But when you have your arm up overhead, you're sitting down, sitting up nice and tall, back is supported, letting that weight dumbbell come behind your head, elbow is pointed to the ceiling, and you kick in that tricep and you reach up overhead, you are making sure, especially when the dumbbell is kind of behind your head, that muscle and tendon of the tricep is pulled nice and tight. So there's tension under the whole muscle and tendon unit. Awesome results. Now you're stimulating the whole system to execute the flabbiness out of your body. All right. So we've got bicep curl, we've got tricep extension, or specifically an overhead tricep extension. Again, if that doesn't make sense to you, please look that up online. So why do these two exercises matter? Well, they're simple and really effective ways to isolate for appearance and function. So we're both focusing on these muscles' capacity to push and pull, which will carry over into back exercises and chest exercises and shoulder exercises. And let's be honest here, having some sculpted arms is pretty damn cool. And it's easy for us to look in the mirror, and especially if we're feeling like we don't have muscle tone or we're feeling a little bit flabby, a little self-conscious, and don't want to wear that sleeveless shirt or something that's going to show too much of your arms because they're kind of just wagging around in the wind. That's not a good vibe. And we also know what it's like to look across a room and see somebody who has some tone arms. And what I recognize this for both men and women, but especially when I see a woman who has tone bicep, tricep, shoulder, I know that they've been putting in effort to do that, and it shows. And so that is the vanity in all of us and their self-esteem that goes along with that, and a practical functionality that goes along with that. So these two exercises do work. They work wonders when they are executed correctly. And now you may be listening to this right now and think, I do those exercises and my arms still aren't getting any stronger than they were 6 months ago. Well, you're doing it wrong. So this is where most people get these exercises wrong. And it's heartbreaking because I know people have expectations at a certain outcome, expect to see things at a certain level, and they're putting in time and effort, and there's a mismatch. And think like, why the hell? Like, I'm doing these exercises. This is just part of getting older. I can't gain muscle anymore. No, you can gain muscle. You can gain muscle mass. You can gain muscle form. You can gain strength absolutely deep into your 60s, 70s, and beyond when you do things well. Here are three mistakes that people make with doing these exercises: bicep curl, overhead tricep extension, on why you may not be getting the results you want. Mistake number one, you are lifting too light. Too light. And men and women both have, we all are, we're different. Okay. So some guys will probably tend to lift, and I'm making generalizations here, so please don't send me too much hate mail, but generally speaking, when I see people in the gym, some of the guys, if there are people that are lifting probably more than they should and they're compromising their form, risking getting injured, tends to be the dudes. On the other side of the gym, if you will, are women oftentimes who are not lifting heavy enough. They're not straining enough. So if your weight is pastel colored and kind of light and is in the single digits of resistance, and you can do 20 or 25 or 30 repetitions, that is not strength training. That is not toning. That is a warm up. High reps can burn. They can cause fatigue. They can make your arms feel kind of tired, but they don't create the true tension it takes to reshape a muscle. You have to create physiological stimulation for your muscle to adapt. And if you've been doing resistance training for the last 6 weeks, including your bicep, including your tricep, and you feel that nothing is changing, you lifting the same weight, doing the same thing, you're doing it wrong, you need more resistance. Mistake number two, you may not be doing enough sets and reps. And I think that there's a default for a lot of people that think 3 sets of 10. I don't know where this 3 sets of 10 originated from, but it doesn't mean anything. So doing 1 to 2, even sometimes 3 sets of 10 repetitions of these exercises once a week and maybe twice a week, it's not going to make a dent. It's not enough stimulation to cause true change. It's not enough. It's not enough volume. So we want to instead think about doing at minimum 3 sets. You can do 4 sets. You can do 5 sets. You can do 8 repetitions, 10 repetitions, 12 repetitions, and you can do that multiple times a week. You should be doing it multiple times a week. And ultimately, every 3 to 4 days, you can be hitting these same muscle groups again and again and again. And the question is, when should you be doing the next round of arm exercises? Basically, as soon as you can wake up in the morning and say, oh, I don't really have any soreness on my arms from that workout I did a couple days ago. Good. Go again. What if it was just 2 or 3 days ago? Fine. Great. Do it again. If you want to stimulate change, as soon as you wake up, and let's sort of frame the whole thing here, you may do an arm exercise, especially after I describe this. And if you start changing things and you think, oh, wow, that's different. My arms are kind of sore. Fine. And you may be sore for 24 hours. You may be sore for 48 hours. If you're at hour 50 and you wake up and you realize, oh, my arms feel kind of normal. I feel 98% normal. Great. Do it again. So you can actually exercise the same muscles perhaps every 3 days. So we need to keep in mind that volume does make a huge difference. If you want to be stronger, if you want to have more tone, if you want to have more shape and form, more is better. Mistake number 3, most people do not do progressive overload. So what that means is that they're using the same band or the same weight, doing the same number of sets, the same number of reps on any given week. They've done the same basic volume of exercises that you did a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and you're getting the same results. If that is the case, that is happening because you are not pushing. You're not pushing hard enough. You're not stimulating your muscles enough to challenge them to adapt. So doing the same pink dumbbell bicep curls every Monday is like trying to fill a swimming pool with a spoon. It's just not enough. There's got to be a better way of doing it. And there is a better way of doing it. And that means you need something bigger than a spoon. You need something with more resistance, harder to do, a dumbbell that's heavier, a band that's has much more resistance on it to stimulate this change, to shape your beautiful arms. So how do we do this? How do we dose it right? How do we pick the right resistance? And this is where, if there's nothing else you take away from this, please take this away. It is far more important than whether you're doing a bicep curl with 8 pounds or 10 pounds or 15 pounds, because that is really unique to all of us. But what is not unique to all of us, what is universal, is that the last 2 repetitions of your bicep curls and the last 2 repetitions of your overhead tricep extension, and here's a little secret too, this goes for every single exercise, but the last 2 reps should be super hard. I mean super hard. Your form should be good, but you should be struggling to complete the last 2 repetitions. And I don't care if that's repetition 9 and 10, 14 and 15, 5 and 6, whatever those last 2 repetitions are where you feel like I just can't do anymore, those should be really hard. Now, if you put a weight down after doing a set and you feel that, if I was there standing in front of you and I said, come on, push, give me 3 or 4 more. And if you think, yeah, I could probably, if you really kind of egg me on, that's the problem. You're not struggling enough. So if you can think back to a gym setting, for those of you that have been into a gym, and if you can feel comfortable enough to go over to the free weight section and you see guys, this is often guys, again, to go back to the guys who sometimes will lift more than they should, and you look at them as they're doing the workouts, their face is contorted, they're grunting and groaning, they look barely human, but they are stimulating muscle change. So when you were doing your bicep curl and your overhead tricep extension, if somebody's going to walk by you and look at you in the face, they should look at you and say, holy cow, like something's happening to this person. That's a contorted face. There's a little bit of snot, a little bit of spittle, a grunt and groan, sweat, face is red. Perfect. That is exactly what you have to do. That is, if you're doing that, if you're pushing that hard, congratulations, your arms are going to be friggin' ripped, look great, get the tank top out. If you put down the weight after the last 1 or 2 reps that you've done, you put it down, and you look in the mirror and you feel like, maybe broke a sweat a little bit, but not a big deal, it's not enough. So you have to have crazy, ugly looking facial contortions. That's when you know you're probably getting pretty close to dosing it just right. So you're going to shoot for 3 to 4 and maybe even build up to 5 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions of these exercises. You're going to rest for a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes between each set. And always, every single time, those last 2 repetitions are tough. You're going to want to do this a minimum of 2 days a week to actually see change. If Monday is your bicep day and you have one other day, you have a Thursday where you end up doing some tricep sort of stuff, and if that's all you're going to do, lower your expectations. That is not enough to stimulate change. Now, if you're coming off the couch and you don't do anything at all, yeah, it's not going to take much to stimulate change, but the human body is beautiful. It's amazing. It does cool stuff. It adapts accordingly. In short order, though, 1 time a week, you're going to realize it's a waste of time. It's nothing. It's maybe maintaining wherever you are at that time, but it's not getting better. The tempo of your bicep curl, overhead tricep extension is slow in the lowering phase. We call this the eccentric phase. So we want to build more time under tension. So when you're doing a bicep curl, you're on your incline bench, arms hanging down by your side, you do that bicep curl, you pull it up, maybe give it 1,001, maybe 1,002 to curl it. Let's go for 1,003, 1,004 on the way down. So you can pop it up with a little bit of power, a little bit of quickness, slower on the lowering phase. And you will find it is tough. When you pick the right weight, it doesn't take more than a few reps. If you're not already doing the specific technique of these lifts, you will realize something is different. And that is what we want. That is going to stimulate some sculpted arms. And as always, form matters. So don't rush through these things. This isn't a cardio session. You can listen to hop around dance music if you want, but you're not doing that. You can listen to it. Don't behave that way. It's not rushed. It's controlled, building power. Is it hard? Yeah, it's friggin' hard. Does it work? 100% it works. And when you can pace yourself, great technique, good solid resistance, it is hard, and you're doing volume. 3 sets, 4 sets, 5 sets. A few days later, do it again. A few days later, do it again. A few days later, guess what? Yeah, you're doing it again. Is that what it takes? Absolutely. So when you see somebody who has clearly spent time exercising, clearly has muscle definition, ask them, how often do you do bicep curls or tricep extension or whatever these things are, whatever body part you see that looks pretty sculpted, ask them. And you'll 9 times out of 10, you'll find somebody who's spent a lot of time in the gym or a lot of time doing exercise. It is cumulative repetitions, cumulative load, and consistency. So how do we progress this over time? We want to track the weight that you're lifting, how many reps you're doing, and how it felt. So do a self-assessment called a rate of perceived exertion. So all my coaching clients on my smartphone app, when I give them exercises, when they're done with each exercise, they can press a button and tell me how hard did that feel. 10 out of 10, obviously that is white hot, super hard, absolutely brutal. 1 out of 10, that's sitting on the couch watching TV at night. So when you're doing these exercises, they're not always going to be an 8 out of a 10 or a 9 out of 10. Sometimes it's a matter of like trying to finesse, like, what is the right weight? Maybe that was a little bit too heavy. My form started to fail too soon, so I kind of adjusted it. Maybe that one next set was a little bit too light. It takes time to kind of finesse these things and learn where you are. And then even on a day-to-day basis, on a workout-to-workout basis, you may find that if you're doing bicep curls with 15 pounds for a period of time, and then one day you're in there and you realize, oh, the 15 pounds feels super easy. But it's, I'm doing the same sets and reps, but now my rate of perceived exertion is only a 6 and not an 8. Great. It's okay. That is okay. But that's a big trigger. That's a little light goes off that says, I need to increase the weight now because my body's adapting, which is awesome. And it, unfortunately, from time to time, it happens the other way too. If you don't sleep as well some nights, that 15 pounds that you maybe did the last couple of weeks feels like 1,000 pounds and you have to drop the weight down. That's okay as well. We want to add volume over time. So this is key. More total work means better adaptations, and we need to reframe toning. Also, this whole concept of toning, instead, let's think about building lean, defined, firm muscle. And I know it's a little bit semantics, but I feel like toning has been overdone, just like exercise classes have been overdone. And I think that if we can reframe things and think, I want to have defined muscles, not just taut. I want defined muscles. I'm going to pick something up and have a little bit of a bump where your bicep is. Or you want to push something away and have that little divot in the back of your arm where your tricep muscle is. That takes this type of effort, this type of consistency. Bar none, consistency is what's going to take you home. That's what's going to make the biggest difference, is when it's consistent and you're following all the guidelines that I just went through. So the reality check for us is that toned arms don't come from random curls. They come from strategy, consistency, and a progressive challenge that has to be progressive. If you've been spinning your wheels, if you've been doing stuff and you feel like you're not getting the results you normally you would expect, it's not your fault. It's not a big deal. It's okay. Today's a new day. Tomorrow's a new day. It's typically from bad information from magazines, from fluffy fitness marketing, and sadly, from garbage personal trainers who aren't clear themselves on how the physiology works, or they're not being explicit with you about what you can expect from what you're doing. But the good news is this is totally fixable when you have a real plan. And if nothing else, if you've been showing up and putting in effort and not getting the results, or if you've been trying it and you're getting injured, don't change your goal, just change your approach. If you're not sure what to do, here's the obvious pitch that I'm going to give, which is go to my website, which is linked here. Do a one consult with me. Let me talk you through this. We'll do this on video. Let me talk you through, coach you through how to do a bicep curl, overhead tricep extension, and you'll be on your way. And I promise you, once you understand the proper ways to do that, it will change everything. It will change how you exercise from head to toe. The bicep curl and the overhead tricep extension is just a nice, approachable way to start. But the same concept of load, of pacing, of resistance, of sets and reps, of frequency, it's the same for all muscles. So there's the punchline. That's the secret, right? So it's the same for all muscles. It's even the same for men and women. I really wanted to specifically call out women in this episode because, again, I've got people in my life who have been mentioning this specifically. So when you start a thoughtful plan, a custom plan, when you really kind of figure out this is what it's supposed to feel like, within 6 weeks, 8 weeks at the most, your arms will be different. Guaranteed. 6 to 8 weeks, your arms will be different. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be, supermodel sculpted or bodybuilder sculpted or anything, but if you're not exercising as I just explained, I guarantee you 6 to 8 weeks, you will look in the mirror or the people around you will say, you've been doing something different in the gym, haven't you? Or maybe it's like, hey, you started going to the gym. Your arm's looking pretty tight there. That's pretty cool. Yeah. And then you go shopping for sleeveless shirts. Super cool, right? You can always message me directly from my website again, healthspanpillars.com. I can help you dial in your resistance to make sure you're like at that sweet spot. I can help you with the volume that you're doing, help you with make sure you're recovering well. So a few days later you can get back at it so you don't feel like you're totally broken. And if you've been injured along the way, as we all, if you're anywhere close to my age, you've been injured along the way. We have bumps and bruises. It's a story of life. That's all. That's fine. That's scars of life. Makes it interesting, but sometimes these exercises we have to finesse and kind of adapt a little bit for you to still get gains, but to do it safely. So you are not too old to have beautiful arms, but you're probably just underloaded. The one thing you can do today to extend your health span, to have all of the physiological benefits of lean muscle mass, which includes burning more calories, burning more fat, improving your function, managing your blood sugar, and an endless other array of benefits from strength training. The one thing you can do today that will change your life is to do resistance training for your arms appropriately. Bicep curl, overhead tricep extension. Give that a shot. If you have any questions about that, again, hit me up, message me from the podcast platform. Check it out on YouTube. Follow me if you would. That means the world to me. I don't get paid for doing this stuff, but it's fun to kind of talk about. Let's clear the air, skip the nonsense, fluffy, jump around nonsense. If you're going to spend the time and you truly, truly want to feel strong and look strong, have some sculpted arms, get rid of some flappy stuff that's under your arm when you wave goodbye and your tricep keeps waving even though you stopped waving, give that a go. Hit me up if you have questions. I'm here for you.